Happy birthday, Kim Kardashian, who I happen to share a birthday with. So yes, I just had a birthday myself. Um, anyway, so I can honestly say I have very little in common with Kim Kardashian, even though we have the same birthday. Obviously different years. So I thought to look into her chart, and in looking at her chart, I was curious about her marriage to Kanye West. I don't follow the TV show. I'm not very much into reality TV, but I will say that I have found her to be an interesting person. The few times I've caught bits of the show, I find her just interesting. So she is born 10/21/1980, time adjusted for daylight savings time to 9:35 a.m. She's born the day or the year of a Yang metal monkey, the month of Yang fire dog, the day of Yin fire rabbit, and the hour of Yin wood snake. Her life cycle, and I can talk to you about that, is a Yang earth tiger. Her current Lux cycle that started in 2015 is a Yang water horse. She's got a lot of interesting things going on in her chart. Of course, the first thing I saw was the punishment, the Yin-Sa punishment of, actually, I didn't even catch that. Wow. So her life pillar, which is a hidden aspect of your chart, is a tiger. And so her year being a monkey and her hour being a snake, she's got a punishment. That affliction rides with her throughout her life. It could easily explain her inability for whatever, this is the reason that her romances are, I think, so unstable. It could be that she's very strong. She's 30% fire. She has a good amount of support at 21% or so. Her, what she produces and manifests is balanced at 16%. What she controls is strong at nearly 30%, but she only has a trace amount of water, which is what controls her. And that is the place of career. And it's also the placement for your relationships, your romantic relationships as a woman. So that being said, that aspect of her chart is very weak. And being so weak really speaks to the fact that she has not had a long-term relationship that has been successful. She's had some of these very short-lived relationships, short-lived marriages, and her time with Kanye was probably one of her longer relationships, and she has children with him. So it's a lot more complicated for that reason, for sure. So when I'm looking at her, the thing that came to mind was, I know that she recently became a lawyer. This really speaks more to who she is. As a monkey year, I think that is an aspect of her personality she leans into more than her rabbit self. Her rabbit self is that part of her that comes off as being very aloof, very, some people might say snobby, full of herself, right? That's just the rabbit. The shadow side of the rabbit can be very aloof and passive, kind of wanting to be in their own space. Certainly not somebody who is a megastar, right? The monkey speaks to her being involved in lots of different projects. Then you look at her career of Yin wood snake. shows she brings a lot of intuitive knowledge into her work, and her job really speaks to a side of herself that she's not normally displaying. I kind of like, again, mentioned in my last video with Heidi Klum, the idea of wearing masks, of revealing an aspect of yourself, like her TV personality, for instance, could be something that's different from her day-to-day behind the like off-camera person, right? And her career is really something that when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking this is somebody that it speaks more to a lawyer than to a celebrity, to be honest. And her chart is a little bit too yang, and it's a little bit too warm. You know, that lack of water means that there's too much heat in the chart. Her current luck cycle is bringing up big time her relationships. And this started in 2015. But because of Kanye, I went back to her, the one that was before this. And when I looked back, it was the ages of 24 to 33. This is when it all began. Keeping up with the Kardashians, all that stuff, big changes, lots of challenges, dealing with people that are stabbing you in the back, not being loyal, people who, you know, are nasty on social media with their comments and so forth. So it was a challenge and also a lot of change in her career, for sure. And this was also a time when daughters were foretold. It was a time of great creativity and partnerships, collaborations, finding resource money from other places. And not really talking specifically to marriage at all, okay? And yet, when we get into 2015, so they started dating in 2012. They got married 2 years later in 2014. So the year after they got married, she had this luck cycle change that really brought her marriage, her family, her responsibilities, her career, all to the forefront of her life. And it was really, I think, a time when she felt like she was stepping into her own light, Again, there's mention of daughters. There's mention of her sisters, and finding herself. This is really very, it feels to me like a big, abundant time of family, collaborations, finding her confidence, really blooming into her life and taking on all of her responsibilities in her marriage. I was curious, her father, she's a yin fire person, and her father is represented as yang fire. So there's this, you know, I know she was very close with her dad, and there's just a beautiful chemistry there of partnership, friendship, getting along, equals, right? And then her mom, and this is the pillar, is yang fire dog. Her mom really shows up as, you know, this is somebody who's very intuitive, somebody very smart. This is how Kim sees her relationship with her mother. Her mother is someone who's kind of a rebel, goes to her own rhythm, does things her own way, breaks molds, tries things that haven't been tried, like keeping up with the Kardashians. So all of those kinds of things. Her mom, she sees her as this intuitive, really smart woman, who also has played a bit of a father role to her. is also a part of her being able to manifest money from different revenue sources. And she also deep down is also a friend, a partner. And yet, when you look through the landscape of Kim's chart, her mother isn't really there. Nope. But in her life pillar, her mother plays a dominant role in her life. And your life pillar is really the secret essence of why you're here. So when we look at Kim's chart, we see that that life pillar speaks of certain relationships being the strongest. I would say number one, powerful in her life, are the role that her sons will play. Now, they're just children now, but throughout their life with her, that relationship is going to be the most impactful for her. The other is her brothers and her mother. Her mother is the second strongest person. Interesting that her sisters aren't part of this journey. Also mentioned in her life is being a lawyer. Very strong. Politics, law, government. Very interesting. The other thing is that her life is very much divine to be one of her. She's very, very smart. She's also intuitive. And she also is somebody that's not afraid to break molds, try new things, be rebellious, and start her own revolution. Now, I'm sure that whole idea of being kind of having this rebellious spirit deep down inside of her as part of her life pillar, that really speaks to Kanye West. This was an interesting relationship. I don't know if you saw this, but I saw her get usurped by him. And I'm going to speak to that in a second. When we look at the role her sons play in her chart, because I just said that's a big piece to her life story, that her sons are her spiritual teacher. It's a pretty powerful thing. This is a karmic soul connection that she has with those boys. And with her daughter, that relationship, it's one in which they have a kinship and a friendship, but there is also a competition and harm with Kanye in relation to her daughter, North. And she has more than one daughter, sorry. So her daughters, there's conflict in the relationship because of the father, okay? With her daughters, there's also mention of money, of resources and being taken care of, and also a bit of rebellion and power play. Okay. Interesting. So then when you go to look in her chart to see where is a husband, it's not there. It's very weak and very distant. If you look at where her sisters are, her sisters also, younger sisters and daughters, fall in the same place in the hour, and that also is something where there is a lot of compatibility, but there is also friction and competition with the father. Very interesting. And there's also money, and again, this mention of kind of rebelliousness, of conflict with power, and making money. Just say there's lots of making money. Now, when you look for the father in her chart, he is hidden in the role that her mother plays. So the father's position is very weak. And again, when we go back to her life pillar, her life here in this life is not, her father doesn't play a role, right? It's really about her sons. And again, those are her spiritual teachers, pretty profound, and her mother. Law, politics, government. Okay, so these are the biggest pieces. When you look at the monkey gets bored easily. Like, they like to stay busy. They like to be on the go, doing lots of different projects, lots of different things. Her day of the rabbit is somebody that's a negotiator. Again, that speaks really strongly to somebody who wants to be a lawyer. But they're meek, they're mild, they're more reserved. They're not the ones that want to step out and be front and center, okay? And then when you look at her personality, is somebody that is driven to succeed. There's, her chart is set up for wealth and success. She's also an idealist. She's a dreamer. I don't know if we really see a whole lot of that. But she's destined to live a very comfortable life. She really needs balance. Us Libran girls, we live for balance. And when life is out of balance and when there's chaos, and we've seen this in her life, it can get very frustrating and she can get very stuck. What else can I say about this amazing person? She also loves to talk. Communication is very big for her, and she also can be acerbic in her speech. She can be quick-tongued and very sharp, and that again speaks to the rabbit. Rabbit can be very condescending and aloof. I know. She's skilled at helping people, and that goes back again to being a lawyer. I would love to see her drop out of showbiz and go off and do something of real, like make an impact in the world, take her money. And that's one of the things I see about these people that have gobsmacks amounts of money. Can you imagine if Keeping Up with the Kardashians was all about people who were making money and going out and doing charitable work that was changing lives? That I would watch. That I would pay attention to. Anyway, no judgment. But in all of this, she has a very strong drive to succeed that can turn into psychological, mental, spiritual health breakdowns. And again, we look at this punishment of the snake and the tiger and the monkey. And this really speaks to, again, lawsuits, legal action. It speaks of like chronically having to manage lawsuits or legal battles. Like, look at that whole thing with the video, right? The sex tape. And then there's looking at chronic illness. I think she's healthy. Having a greater propensity for having accidents. Like you think of the robbery in Paris, things like that, okay? So I would say that her health and safety are always at risk. Let's dive into Kanye. This is an interesting character. They have a lot in their chart that is similar. Remember, her hour is a snake. He's born in the year of a snake, a yin fire snake. A month of yang fire horse. Horse is also fire. The day of yang fire monkey, he also has a monkey. And yes, he also has that snake. He doesn't have the tiger, but the tiger is here 2022. So I'm sure this has been a difficult year. And he has the hour of yang water dragon. His chart shows that he is nearly 70% his own fiery self. Now, this can speak to somebody, and I've talked about this before, who has like I was saying in the last video, Heidi Klum has so much of her own energy. She's so wrapped up in her own head. It's like the Heidi Klum show. This is way bigger than that. And this is somebody that could really lean into a narcissistic personality disorder. This is somebody that is so into their own self. It's very hard to come out. He's balanced in his creativity of earth. He's weak in metal. He's weak in water. He has hardly any wood supporting him. And again, so his whole life is him and what he creates and nothing else. Okay. When you look at what does Kim look for in a relationship, and she hasn't found it. She is looking for somebody that she has a soul connection with. She is looking for a teacher, somebody who can teach her things, somebody who is deeply spiritual, and offers her support. Not financial, not with responsibilities, not with family. This is a much, much deeper relationship. Kanye, being born on the day of the monkey, is looking for somebody that he can father. That's interesting. He sees himself in his romantic relationships as a father figure. And this is somebody that there is, in that dynamic, the creation of making money, okay? So in the money, there's also a power struggle. There's their career enmeshed in this relationship, and there's also creativity, okay? But I would say the strongest element here is how he's controlling these relationships. When they first got together in 2008, he was in a yang water tiger luck cycle, giving him a full punishment, that affliction of tiger, snake, and monkey. He, just like Kim, they were both going through big changes in their careers when they met. They both were dealing with all kinds of challenges that come with being celebrities and in their work. And he was also really kind of launching himself on a spiritual journey. And I know he's got like his church and a school and I don't know what else going on now. This was 2008 for him. And this was 2005 for her. And they met again in 2012. Also during this period for him, this was a time of partnerships, collaborations, finding himself anew. This was also for him a big time for having sons. Then in 2018, which is 4 years after they got married, he had a luck cycle change into his current cycle of yin metal ox, which is a time that really highlighted his marriage, which is interesting because her marriage was also being highlighted in her current luck cycle. And this is a time for him of prospering, of moving, of travel, just great prospering and abundance. It's also a time of rebellion, revolution, breaking the molds. There's slight mention of his daughters and of family work, responsibilities. That's on a lesser level. So when you look at their relationship, if one person is looking for a deep spiritual connection and the other person wants to dominate you, like I'm the big daddy telling everybody what to do, that's kind of not going to work. It's not going to work. The thing I also found interesting was his hour, career, and kids clashes with Kim's month, where her mother is. And that is dragging his hour to that month of the dog. And so that conflict, I think, was playing out in their marriage, that Kim was seeing how the kids with Kanye, all of this, and his career were in conflict with her mother. Okay, that I found interesting. And I also noticed that dragon harms Kim's rabbit self, meaning that his career and the kids directly impact him from his perspective, from his relationship to the kids. It's harmful to her. And this, it's interesting because I saw this. You saw how he was dictating the way she needed to dress. He was dictating a lot about her designs, with a lot of her work projects. So what was happening in that conflict of his dragon and her rabbit self is it was affecting her kids, her creativity, and a lot of her persona. This could not have worked. And she is really in it because of her kids with him. She's on a tough journey until those children are raised. Let's see, what else? So I already told you, Kanye's chart is way too yang and way too hot. There is a lot of imbalance in his chart for sure. And fire being mental health. Yeah. I've spoken before about when you are weak in an element, it can impact the systems and organs of the body. In a similar way, if you are excessive in an element, it can also do that. And I know that he has, that he's bipolar and may have other issues. I would suffice it to guess that he's got a narcissistic personality disorder. I'm not a psychiatrist, but looking at his chart and what I do know of him, that seems to make sense. He also has a chart like Heidi Klum that is a Lu pattern chart that suggests that he is going to be very successful in his life and have a ton of money. But because, just like Heidi, he has so much of his own energy, it's kind of a moot point. It's like, it's there, but because there's so much of himself, it's irrelevant. Either way, you can see that this is somebody that is destined to have a life that is extremely successful. Alrighty, so interesting that both of them have that affliction of snake, monkey, tiger. And this year being a tiger year, 2022, has got to be extra challenging. No wonder the Pete Davidson relationship was not going to happen. The guy's born in, 93? She's born in 80? He's 13 years younger than her. Well, let's start with that. And then let's look at the fact the guy is born in the year of a yin water rooster and the day of a yin metal ox. He's way too yin and way too cold for this girl. Not happening. Like, just temperature wise, they're opposites, right? And then you look at the fact that Pete is born in the year of a rooster, which directly clashes with Kim's day of the rabbit. It's like metal to wood is not happening. It's just not going to work. And when you look at, sorry, hold on. When you look at and yet, oh, this was the thing that was interesting. When you look at what Pete looks for in a relationship, it's the same as Kim. I think this is what was the initial attraction for her, was that she was seeing somebody that she could go to a soul level with, and she could learn something from this guy. But there's too many other factors working against it. So it was and very much wasn't. As a rooster year, Pete is very much strutting his rooster self, cock-a-doodle-doo, arrogant, flashy, likes to be seen and heard, right? His day as an ox speaks to somebody that is extremely hardworking, and maybe some of that work ethic was attractive to Kim as well. But yeah, very much a hardworking, stubborn person. But just, I didn't look at all of his chart. I was just curious, but way too yin and way too cold for her. Anyway, that's my take. I took a little bit longer on this chart because I found it really fascinating. And feel free to like, subscribe, comment if you feel up for it. And I will say, if you're interested in other celebrities, other people in the news that you're curious about, couples or individual celebrities, just let me know. I just might write it up for you. So anyway, thanks so much and be well.